Hey Brandon, it's me Zach, and I am making these videos for you actually. These videos are specifically created for you to help you out on your Pokemon adventure and for you to become basically a better player, specifically with your Pikachu and PikaRom GX deck. So the deck that you see here, it might look really familiar. It should. It's the exact same deck that you've been playing in real life and online during our coaching sessions. So this deck here, even if the arts are a little bit different, you can see here that I have the alternative art of that, or the kind of special version of this Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Regardless of the arts, this is the exact same deck that you have, that you've been playing with. I know you recently added in both the Jirachi and the Custom Catcher to make sure that your deck is a little bit more competitive. And yeah, no, I think that Pikachu Zekrom is a great play going forward, whether you're playing at your local league, playing with friends, playing with your brother, league challenges, league cups, or any other event like a regionals that you'd be attending. So the goal of this series of videos is for me to showcase exactly what your deck can do. And I know that situations can get frustrating in Pokemon, but if you watch these, you can see exactly how I can expertly show you what to do in every single available situation against every single deck that is popular in the game right now. I've specifically chosen some decks that will be able to, that you've struggled against, so that you can learn how to play against them. And if you follow and watch along with these videos and pay attention, which I really hope you do, these videos will show exactly what you need to do in those specific circumstances. So I guess we'll kind of explain before I get too sidetracked here, exactly the structure of how these videos are going to work. So it's basically going to go deck profile of a video, and then the next video afterwards is going to be that deck versus your Pikachu Zekrom deck. So this first video, since the first video of the entire series that I'm making for you, it's going to focus over your exact Pikachu Zekrom GX deck. And I'm going to explain how every single card works in your deck, because maybe there's some cards that you're not entirely sure how they work, or maybe you were wondering exactly what my thoughts were on some of them. And then the next video, I'm going to pick one of the top decks right now, in the metagame, for example, and then we're going to play against that deck. So in the next video, we're going to be playing against Daniel Altavilla, one of the absolute best players in the game. We're going to be going over his video, or we're going to be going over his Pikachu Zekrom deck of your deck versus his deck. So, and then there's going to be other decks like Ability Reshiram Charizard, Mewtwo Mew, lots of great decks there. So you'll see exactly what each deck is about, and you'll see exactly how to play against every single deck. Sounds like a great plan to me. And again, I really hope that this gets you excited about playing in more tournaments, that you grow as a player because of it. And I hope that they're pretty entertaining for you to watch too. If you have any questions at all, 100% feel free during our next coaching session to ask me anything. I'd love to help you answer any question that you have. Grow as a player, whatever you need to do. These videos are aimed to make you a better player, Brandon. So without wasting too much more time, let's just jump into this deck. And I'll start by explaining every single card in the deck, and then I'll tell you exactly what the general strategy is. Okay. So we're going to start off here with Dedenne GX. And I'm sure, again, most of these cards, I'm sure you know what they do, but I will explain them just for the thorough sake of this video. So it's one of your GX Pokemon in your deck, and this is one of the very few decks that we have that can attack with Static Shock or Tingly Return. A lot of decks like Ability Zard, they run Dedenne GX, and they can't actually attack with Dedenne GX. They're running it for Dead Change. Dead Change, you only want to be able to use it to draw cards. Or you want to be using Pokemon Communication to put this back into your deck. The Dedenne GX is one of the most important cards in the deck, period, because it can help you get more cards that you need in your hand. So let's say you need a Custom Catcher, or 2 copies of Custom Catchers, or you have a dead hand that you open and you can't do much. The Dedenne GX will allow you to discard your hand and draw into some of the cards that you need. So that being said, once we get past Dead Change, this is a deck that can attack with Static Shock or Tingly Return GX. I'm going to recommend against ever using Tingly Return GX unless you're in an absolutely awful position. And the reason why is because you want to be saving your GX attack for Tag Bolt GX on Pikachu and Zekrom GX, or Lightning Ride GX on your Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. Now, those attacks don't have paralysis built in, and we know that special conditions can sometimes be very good. So keep your eyes open for any opportunity where you feel like using Tingly Return GX could be a good option. But for the most part, you might use Static Shock 1 out of 100 games. And that's just because you don't have any other options. But you could use Static Shock, and Thunder Mountain does reduce these attacks by 1 energy total. So maybe on the first turn of the game, you could knock out one of your opponent's lone basic Pokemon. Maybe they're chilling out there with a Pidgey or a Vulpix. You could knock out those Pokemon fairly easily with Static Shock or Tingly Return. And make sure if you ever use Tingly Return GX that you have another basic Pokemon on your bench. Otherwise, you will run out of Pokemon in play and lose the game. Moving on, we got Pikachu and Zekrom GX, basically the main card of this deck. The deck is called PikaRom for a reason. Pretty beefy HP, a lot of HP going on there, 240 of them. We have Full Blitz for Lightning, Lightning, Lightning to do 150. This is going to be one of the main ways for you to power up your other big attacks. And while most of your attacks only cost 3 energies or less, if you read the extra on Tag Bolt GX or on Lightning Ride GX, the plus sign, you want to have upwards of 6 energies on this Pokemon and upwards of 5 energies on this Pokemon. So Full Blitz is a great way to do damage. You'll see in some cases in the following videos that I've already filmed some of them while I'm telling you this, so I'm doing them out of order on my side, but you'll be able to watch them in order. So you'll see in some of the following videos, I decide between going for knockouts with Full Blitz or intentionally leaving your opponent's Pokemon with some HP left so you could knock them both out with Tag Bolt GX. So one of the cases there would be not knocking out a Blacephalon GX in the active position because you don't want to activate B-String. So there's sometimes there's some points of the game where you don't want to activate your opponent's cards like B-String, or you don't want to put yourself in a bad reset stamp position. That's where you don't try to get the knockouts with Full Blitz by using your Electro Powers. Or sometimes you just want to use Tag Bolt GX the next turn to knock out multiple Pokemon at once to put you in a better position. So pay attention for that. Tag Bolt GX, 200 damage, one of the absolute best GX attacks in the game. Pikachu Zekrom GX is one of the best GX Pokemon tag teams that we have in the entire game. You want to be using this attack to draw multiple prize cards if it's possible. You can use it though for a straight 200 damage. So let's say if you're playing against a Pikachu Zekrom GX mirror, you could play Electro Power and Electro Power to hit for 260 damage, and that might be enough to take them out of the game. One of the key strategies in Pokemon you got to think about is drawing 6 of your prize cards, but you could also play defensively and knock out your opponent's important Pokemon, which leaves them without an answer in return. So think about exactly when you're making your decision on which attack you want to use or how you want to use your attacks, because there are some opportunities to use attacks differently than you might have thought of. I'll try to showcase these and highlight them during the videos that come to follow this video. So usually you want to use Tag Bolt GX to win a game, if possible, or put yourself in a position where you win the game the next turn. You could Full Blitz onto your own Pikachu Zekrom GX if you have enough energies, or if you think that your opponent's Pokemon is not going to knock you out, then go for a Tag Bolt to draw multiple prize cards at once. Watching out for cards like Mew, and I'll just pull up a Mew here in case you haven't seen too many of them. We got Mew here. This is a card you don't want to see when you're going for Tag Bolt. The one with Bench Barrier, doesn't matter which art, they're the exact same card, whether it's from Unbroken Bonds or one of the Mew pin box promos. That would stop your Tag Bolt GX from going through on the bench. So maybe you want to use custom catchers to knock out a Mew before you were to use Tag Bolt GX. Nonetheless, it's one of those things. If you have 4 prize cards left, you could bring up a Dedenne with custom catcher, and then you can knock out 2 Dedennes, so their active one and their bench one, to draw 4 prize cards. You can use this attack to basically win games. So don't use it lightly. 100%, it's one of those things that you want to use to win games. Moving on, we got Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. It has 20 more HP than Pikachu Zekrom GX. Doesn't always matter in those cases, but it is nice to notice. It has options when it comes to attacks. It's a little bit different than Pikachu Zekrom because Tandem Shock, similar to your Zapdos, if you bring it from the bench to the active, you can hit for more damage, and you also can paralyze your opponent. So kind of how I was saying about Tingly Return GX onto Dene GX, Paralysis can sometimes be really good at just winning your opponent, or just winning the game. Reset Stamp and Paralysis, especially once your opponent has drawn a few prize cards, might be a game-winning combo. So definitely pay attention in games if there's an opportunity for you to use that strategy. And obviously with Electro Power, you could be doing more than enough damage to be knocking out some hefty Pokemon. You could add up to 120 damage to Tandem Shock with your 4 Electro Powers, which means that you could do upwards of 280 damage with it. So that means you can knock out any Pokemon. But if you're trying to knock out a big Pokemon, let's say a Reshiram and Charizard GX that has 270 HP, it's likely more efficient for you to be attacking with Lightning Ride GX. So if you have 5 energies on this Pokemon total, or 4 energies and a Thunder Mountain Prism Star, you hit for 250 damage already, and then you can hit Electro Power to hit them for 280 damage, which can knock out every single Tag Team GX in the Pokemon, or every single Tag Team GX, except for, I think it's the Triple Birds, or Magikarp Wailord GX. Those two aren't very common, so I 100% think that you should be using Lightning Ride GX to knock out most Tag Team Pokemon, but just pay attention for the amount of HP that they have. When you're switching into a Pokemon with Lightning Ride GX, you want to be setting up one of your single prize card Pokemon, like Jirachi or Zapdos, and the reason for that is your opponent likely will have more than one prize card left, and those Pokemon would allow you to attack again. Otherwise, you probably want to send up another tag team Pokemon, maybe another Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX, or a Pikachu and Zekrom GX, just because those Pokemon have the highest amounts of HP in your deck. If your opponent can't knock them out, it does give you that kind of turn as a defense mechanism in the game. Jumping into the next card, we got one of the best cards in the deck. We got Tapu Koko Prism Star. We mainly use this card for Dance of the Ancients. So I know for sure you've loved this card. I've seen how excited you get when you are able to play it. You want to have 2 lightning energies in your discard pile, or you could have 1, depending on what you have, how the game's going. And then you can attach those energies to your bench Pokemon any way you like by sending Tapu Koko Prism to the Lost Zone. Now, one thing that I will note, even though this Pokemon is used for Dance of the Ancients, you can attack with Mach Bolt. There are a few Pokemon in the format that will stop your deck from attacking. So things like Keldeo GX, your GX Pokemon can't attack it because of its Pure Heart ability. And additionally, there's Alolan Ninetales with its Luminous Barrier ability. Your GX Pokemon can't attack that. So when you run into Pokemon like that, you could only attack them with Tapu Koko Prism Star, and you could only attack them with your Zapdos. Mach Bolt is one of the few attacks that can somewhat knock them out, including the Alolan Ninetales with Luminous Barrier. So you'll see in some of the future videos, I actually utilize Tapu Koko Prism Star as an attacker. So if you ever think that you're in a situation where you need to attack with Tapu Koko Prism Star, you're probably right, especially if your opponent has things that block your PikaRom and your Choo Choo GX. So keep that in mind. Continuing on here, we got Zapdos. So kind of as I was saying, this is one of your only 2 single prize card non-GX attackers. Thunderous Assault, similar to Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. It does more damage if it was on your bench this turn. So you could either do that by using Zeraora GX's Thunderclap Zone to retreat into a Zapdos, by using Switch to switch into a Zapdos. It's one of those things where you want to be doing more damage with this attack. Usually this is a great way to kind of hit one of their tag team GX Pokemon, or something like a Blacephalon GX, or even knock out one of their single prize card Pokemon. You only will likely be able to attack with Zapdos once because it has 110 HP. The other thing to note about this card is the attack's damage isn't affected by weakness. So if you're facing another Zapdos, you will need to play an Electro Power to knock it out. There's not too many lightning weak Pokemon in this format, but Zapdos can certainly knock out a Jirachi. So I have spoke about a little bit of this card when it came to talking about Zapdos. Zorora GX, we basically played in this deck for Thunderclap Zone. It gives all your Pokemon with a lightning energy attached to it free retreats, which is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of Pokemon that have a bunch of retreat costs in this game. You're not really going to attack with this card too often. Plasma Fist hits for 160 damage, which is basically the same as Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX's Tandem Shock if you brought it from the bench to the active. It has 190 HP, so you can almost always expect it to get knocked out by whatever your opponent decides to attack you with. As much as 190 HP is a lot of Pokemon can quickly get that amount of damage in play. So you got to think about it like, let's say if you're playing against a Reshiram Charizard GX deck, they can use their Double Blaze GX attack and hit you for 200 damage to instantly knock you out. They're a welder and 3 fire energies away from doing that. You have full voltage GX here. So it can be cool if you were forced to, let's say, Dedenne a whole hand away of lightning energies, or late in the game, maybe you haven't used a GX attack. But in most cases, you want to be using your GX attack of Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX, or your Tag Bolt GX on Pikachu and PikaRom GX. Full Voltage GX just doesn't do damage. You could quickly power up energies and play with Full Blitz, Thunder Mountain Prism Star, and Tapu Koko Prism Star. So Full Voltage GX just doesn't really do as much as you want. Similar to Dedenne GX, keep your eyes open for any situation that you think Full Voltage GX is good. But beyond that, it's probably, again, one of those 1 out of 100 games where you're forced to discard all your energies in play. Or maybe you're playing against a control deck like Pidgeotto and you want to power up your energies. That might be an okay way to use it as well. But again, those are matchups where you probably want to be using Tag Bolt GX anyways. So really keep in mind that you can only use one GX attack in the game right now. And you want to make sure that you're saving it for your Pikachu PikaRom GX or your Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. Moving on to the last Pokemon we got in this deck, we have Jirachi here. So this is absolutely the best start that you have in the deck. And I'm sure you've been playing around with this deck and you're learning more and more about it every single game that you play with it. Stellar Wish is absolutely amazing at gathering cards that you want. It can grab any trainer, item, supporter, stadium, Pokemon, tool, whatever you need from your deck that's not a Pokemon or an energy, at the cost of putting itself asleep. You can get around to sleep by using a skateboard. So a skateboard allows you to retreat even though you're asleep. Let it be known that Thunderclap Zone, even if you have a lightning energy on this Pokemon, it has free retreats, but you can't retreat while you're asleep unless you have an escape board. This is also the reason why we play Switch in the deck. You could switch out of it, and Switch will lose all special conditions that you have on this Pokemon. When it comes down to using something like Slap, we can't actually attack within this deck. We only play lightning energies, so it's not even a consideration. We only use this card for Stellar Wish. Usually at all times, you want to have a Jirachi on your bench, and the reason why is because every single time your opponent knocks out one of your Pokemon, you could send up Jirachi and use Stellar Wish. You'll see in a lot of the games that I play in the following videos that I use Stellar Wish to grab very important cards like that last Electro Power, that last Volkner to grab what I need, a Custom Catcher, a Thunder Mountain Prism Star. The other thing that I want to note is that your Lysander Labs, as much as it can stop a lot of cards that your opponent has in play, such as their Pokemon tools, it also stops your escape board. So make sure that you don't make the same mistake of putting down a Lysander Labs, then going for Stellar Wish, then retreating with a skateboard. You want to make sure that you go Stellar Wish, retreat, then play Lysander Labs, because that will allow you to use your escape board before you shut it off. Moving into our Item Trainer Supporter Stadium Pokemon Tool category, we have Custom Catcher here. Again, another new card that you add into your deck. I'm sure that this is a card that you're excited to play when you have it. You can use it one of two ways, and you can see on the card. So if you play one, you could draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand. So I typically like saving it for the other way, to play both of them at the same time. But sometimes in Pokemon, you're going to have a hand that is not good at all. And if you have a hand that's not good at all, sometimes you could play cards out of your hands until you have 3 or less cards in your hand, including Custom Catcher. So you can use this card to draw 1, 2, or 3 cards depending on how many cards you have in your hands. In some of the videos, you'll see that I'll use it. Some of the videos, you'll see that I'm forced to discard it. But usually you want to get off playing 2 custom catchers at least once a game. It's really helpful with things like Tag Bolt GX, or if your opponent was building up a big Pokemon on their bench. It's really good there. So if you play 2 of them at the same time, you could bring up any of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with their active Pokemon. So if they're sitting there on a Gardevoir Sylveon GX on the bench, fully powered up, and double check if they're playing Gardevoir Sylveon GX to make sure that they don't have a Fairy Charm Lightning. But you could bring it up and knock it out with one of your big attacks, or a Reshiram Charizard GX, or maybe your opponent has a Mewtwo Mew GX. You usually want to bring up a Pokemon that is very important for your opponents, and Custom Catcher allows you to take that away from your opponent. Next up here, we got Electromagnetic Radar. So you can only play this card if you discard 2 other cards from your hand, but that's okay. You usually want to discard lightning energies out of your hands, so you could power up your Pokemon with Tapu Koko Prism Stars, Dance of the Ancient. You can search your deck for any 2 lightning type Pokemon GX. So to go over those very quickly, you could search out a Dedenne GX, a Pikachu Zekrom GX, you could search out a Raichu and a Alolan Raichu GX, and you could search out a Zeraora GX. A lot of other decks in the format, through the rotation, they lost quite a few cards out of their deck. They lost Ultra Ball, which it's one of those things where that's what decks use to search. They lost Nest Ball. Your deck still has Electromagnetic Radar that can search for most of your Pokemon. So that's one of the advantages to playing Pikachu Zekrom. This is likely the reason why Pikachu Zekrom is played as much as it is. This card makes your deck very consistent. It's only good within the first few turns of the game while you search out your Pokemon. Later on in the game, you could easily discard these or use them to play a Dedenne GX from your hands. Moving forward, we have Electro Power. The only way that your deck can add damage to your attacks to knock out your opponent's Pokemon. You want to you want to see how much HP your opponent's Pokemon have, see how much damage your attacks are doing, and come up with a play that Electro Power can make sense with. It can be difficult at times, but once you get used to it, you want to see how many Electro Powers you need to save for later on in the game, how many Electro Powers you need to play to knock out your opponent's Pokemon, or other things like that. You'll see in some of the other videos that I filmed that Electro Power can do a lot of damage, and it can make games go your way very quickly. You can also search this card and all of these item cards out with your Volkner, which is super, super helpful. Moving up, we got Energy Switch. So it's a really simple card, one of the most basic cards in the game. You can move an energy card from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. This deck only plays Lightning, so you can move any of your Lightnings from any of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. This will allow you to quickly use your GX attacks on your Pikachu and Zekrom GX and on your Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. Or you could even get a quicker off full blitz, especially with things like Dance of the Ancients. You have to choose 2 Pokemon, so that's where Energy Switch is very important. So this is either a very early game card to get off a quick full blitz, or it's a late game card so you can move your energies around to kind of get off a Tag Bolt GX. So next up here we have Pokemon Communication. So this allows you to search out your Jirachi in any way possible. It allows you to search out any of your Pokemon, basically swap one of your Pokemon for another Pokemon. You can't search out Jirachi, and you can't search out Zapdos, and you can't search out Tapu Koko Prism Star with Electromagnetic Radar, so this is the one way that allows you to search things in between. Maybe you won't have an Electromagnetic Radar and you really need a PikaRom. Feel free to swap that Dedenne for a PikaRom. Don't leave yourself dead-handed. Moving on to the next card that we have here, we got Reset Stamp. We got 1 copy of that card. This is great. See how many cards are in your opponent's hands. And, oh, well, got a trade there. My bad. So see how many cards are in your opponent's hand, see how many prize cards they have left, and see if Reset Stamp will hurt them. I typically only play this card after my opponent has 3 or less prize cards and that they have 3 or more cards in their hands. So moving forward past that, we got Stadium Nav. Stadium Nav is a coin flip card. So you flip 2 coins for each heads. You could search your deck for a Stadium card and put it into your hand. The only 2 Stadium cards that we have are Lysander Labs and Thunder Mountain Prism Star. The reason why we play this is because we have Volkner. Volkner can search for an item card. This is an item card, but Lysander Labs and Thunder Mountain Prism Star, they are not item cards. You could also grab this card off of the Jirachi. So you could flip both coins, and hopefully you can get a Thunder Mountain Prism Star out there. Moving forward, we have Switch. As we discussed with Jirachi, sometimes you are not going to have things in there that will allow you to retreat, whether you're asleep or not. This allows you to get out of a Jirachi. Let's say they have a power plant that's shutting off Thunderclap Zone. You can't retreat. Switch allows you to get there. Switch is one of the most basic cards we have in the game. So if you ever need to switch and you don't have Thunderclap Zone active, or you have something like Jirachi that gives you a status condition, that's exactly why we would play Switch. So clicking back off Jirachi into Tag Switch. Tag Switch is very similar to Energy Switch in the game. And the reason why is because it moves energies. The only thing that makes this card any different is that it moves 2 energies from your tag team to another one of your Pokemon. This could be a huge combo move to move energies from a Pokemon to use Tag Bolt GX or Lightning Ride GX. That seems exactly why you'd want to be playing it. Beyond that, it's better usually to start with a tag team Pokemon in the active position other than a Zorora, and that's because you could tag switch onto another Pokemon that you need. Going forward with Lysander Labs. Lysander Labs is going to stop all Pokemon Tool cards in play, both yours and your opponent's. So this is going to stop your escape board. So you want to be careful, like I already said before. Lysander Labs, it's one of those things where if your opponent has a Shedinja in play, if they have an escape board, a U-turn board, a spell tag, it will shut all of those things off. Now, another card that you could also play, which would work in a similar way, would be Power Plants. So if you don't like Lysander Labs, maybe Power Plant would be good. It would shut off your Dedenne, and it would shut off your Thunderclap Zone, but it would be a great way to shut off your opponent's Dedennes. It would be a great way to shut off your opponent's Naganadel GX, Heatran GX, Mewtwo Mew GX. There's a lot of reasons why Power Plant and Lysander Labs are good in the game. Hopefully you'll see why Lysander Labs is great in some of the upcoming videos that we have. So be sure to check those out. Thunder Mountain Prism Star, I know that you get super excited whenever you see this card. So the attacks of all lightning Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, cost colorless or cost lightning less, and they cannot bump this with an item or a supporter card. So not that that's very common at all. Usually they're going to bump this with a Stadium or with a Marshadow, but it will allow you to attack for a full blitz quicker. It will allow you to attack with any of your attacks quicker because all your attacks are lightning energy based. Here we have Cynthia, one of the 2 supporter cards that we play in this deck, or 2 kinds of supporter cards. There are 8 in this deck from what I counted. Let me just double check that. Yep. Pretty simple shuffle and draw. Sometimes you don't want to discard your entire hand off of Dedenne, and you want to use Cynthia to just shuffle your hand away in your deck. This allows you to preserve important cards like Custom Catcher and Electro Power in your hands, or maybe there's other cards you don't want to discard. Discarding cards means they're pretty much gone for the game in most cases, so think about that before you decide to go with Dedenne or Cynthia. Next up, we got Volkner, so you could search your deck for an item card. So you could search for Custom Catcher, Electromagnetic Radar, Electro Power, energy switch, Pokemon communication, reset stamp, stadium nav, switch, tag switch, or a skateboard. You could search any of those cards, and you could also search out a lightning energy. So you can open up some plays, such as stadium nav. You can search your deck for a stadium card. You could search your deck for an electromagnetic radar, which will allow you to search for any one of your Pokemon GX. Whatever you need, Volkner pretty much can get you there. The only thing it can't search out is another Cynthia or another Volkner. So keep that in mind when it comes to searching things out with Volkner. Sometimes you might need to use another card to search for another card, but Volkner, as you'll see in some of the games that I'm playing, is one of the most important cards that we have available in this deck. Skateboard, mainly for Jirachi to get out of Stellar Wish when it makes it asleep, but if your opponent's making your Pokemon asleep somehow, or if they're making you paralyzed, like let's say they have a tandem shock that they attacked you with, you could always use a skateboard in weird situations like that. It does reduce the energy cost by colorless less to retreat, so something to think there. And we have lightning energy. We have 11 of those, so make sure when you're going through your deck that you're counting those to see exactly what your options are and what you can attack. Can you full blitz and attack those 3? Can you discard those energies off of Dedenne? Whatever you need, you always want to be checking for some of the more important cards in your deck. So typically, your strategy in almost every single game is to be using full blitz to power up your Pokemon very quickly, and then attacking with bigger attacks like Tag Bolt, Full Blitz, Tandem Shock, and Lightning Ride GX. You can be powering up your Pikachu Zekrom very quickly between using cards like Tapu Koko Prism Star, Thunder Mountain Prism Star, attaching energies naturally, using Energy Switch to move energies around, or using Tag Switch to move energies around. So you could be attacking with Full Blitz as early as turn 1, and you'll see some of that during the upcoming videos that we have filmed for you. And then once you have that, you just want to be making decisions based off, do you want to be using Full Blitz again? Do you want to be attacking with Tag Bolt GX, Lightning Ride GX, Tandem Shock? All of these choices are correct and incorrect at certain points of the game, so you really want to be able to see exactly what your opponent can be doing throughout the game, and what you could be doing against your opponent throughout the game. You want to be using Jirachi to basically set up your turns, so it's not a bad idea to attach an energy to Pikachu Zekrom, retreat for a Thunderclap Zone into a Jirachi to get yourself set up. It's not bad sacrificing this Pokemon, it's only worth 1 prize card. The Dedenne, like I said, is used for setup, and Zapdos is there for when you want to be attacking with something that's not a Pikachu Zekrom GX, it's only worth 1 prize card as well. Using other important cards like Custom Catcher and Electro Power, you can quickly decide how much damage you want to be doing and which Pokemon you want to be bringing up. And then you have disruption cards in the form of Reset Stamp and Lysander Labs. So those 2 cards together will allow you to do some crazy moves in the game. So take a look at your deck right now. I'll give you a moment of silence to look it over. This is exactly what your deck is. Just kind of look at it, realize how many copies of each card that you play, and see exactly what's up with that. Does that make sense to you? Do you know how many copies you play of each card? It's really important to know exactly what's in your deck when it comes down to it. So now that you kind of have that moment of silence to look over your deck, I'm assuming it looks different when you have it all laid out, instead of just like knowing what cards exist in your deck. Maybe you thought you played 10 lightning energies, or maybe you thought you played 15. Maybe you never knew how many you played in your deck. There's a lot of things that knowing what's in your deck. So when I go through my first deck search in the game, I'm always looking for important cards. Your most important cards in this deck are your attackers, like your Pikachu Zekrom. You got your Raichu Alolan Raichu GX. You want to see if you have important cards like Custom Catchers. Do you have your Electro Powers? Maybe for that turn 1, you need your Energy Switch, Tag Switch, how many Lightning Energies you have. Do you have Thunder Mountain, Tapu Koko? You understand exactly where I'm getting at. you don't want to be making plays off thinking you have cards in your deck without actually checking. So maybe during your next deck search that you do, make it a challenge to yourself to see if you know what's in your prize cards. I know I've already gone over this with Ryan a few times, so he knows a little bit better than most players exactly how to look through his prize cards. Maybe it's something that he could help you out with. Beyond that, I think now would be a good time for us to see exactly what this deck does against Pikachu PikaRom GX in the mirror match. That's going to be the first match that we go over because Pikachu PikaRom, it's a very popular deck. There's a good chance that you're going to be playing against it in tournaments. There's a good chance that you're going to be playing against it online. And it will help you understand exactly what's in your deck. So looking it all over, this is what we have here. And again, if you have any questions, anything that you want to go over with me for this deck, maybe you want to change something, maybe you watched another one of these videos on another deck profile that I'll go over for you, and you'll be like, hey, Zach, I actually really like that deck. Can you teach me how to play it? I'd love to see you grow as a player, try different decks out. But right now, we're going to be going over Pikachu PikaRom GX versus Pikachu PikaRom GX. That's going to be the first game. So you'll see how the deck is played on both sides, and whether or not we get great hands or not in that video, or our opponent gets great hands or not, you'll still be able to learn exactly how the matchup goes because it's the same deck. No matter what, Pikachu PikaRom is going to win that game. So I think there's 3 games that we filmed in that video. So you'll be able to see exactly how your deck compares. Maybe Daniel Altavilla's list that we'll go over has a couple different tech cards than yours. So that's what we have for that. And yeah, just have some fun with it. Be sure, just put on some headphones or not. Watch the video on your iPad or a computer, your phone, however it is. And really just try to learn as much as Pokemon. Go in there with the mindset of being, I want to learn about Pokemon. I want to become a better player. Because your brother Ryan's already is an amazing player. He came second at a regional championships last year. He's winning cups, winning challenges, made day 2 at Worlds. So it's one of those things where I'm sure you want to be a player that's as strong as your brother. You want to grow in the game. It's definitely one of those things where you can look up to him, you can play with him, but these videos are aiming to making you an absolutely a better player. So that's what we got for the Pikachu PikaRom deck. We'll jump into the other video, so be sure it's going to be either up on YouTube or up on the Google Drive. So just click on the next one. I've numbered each video for you. And yeah, just watch away. You can always learn something new about Pokemon. So that's it for this video, Brandon. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you at the next one.